All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the interagency briefing for ESPC contracts. And we have a couple of folks here for your viewing pleasure. Doug is actually the tall, dark, handsome man there to the left of Scott Wolf because we still don't have but he's actually live. So who cares, right, Doug?
Right. Thank you, Dave.
So there you go. So Doug is here. He's with FEMP. He's a federal project executive, and also with us we have Adam Harmon, direct from Chicago. I believe that's where you are today, right?
Yes, sir. Good morning, guys.
Awesome. Well, we certainly welcome everyone that's here. So, and if we missed your agency, we apologize about that, but we certainly are glad that you decided to join us today to discuss these things. We have folks from all over the country and sometimes all around the world. And if you're calling in on the phone, you can log in to download the briefing, the PowerPoint, because there's a lot of folks that can't join in. If you're in on the phone, you can join in, but from the Department of Defense, because they don't do the Citrix thing. So go to www.govbrief.us and you can click on the agenda. And if you go to the agenda and then go to the PowerPoint presentation, you can download the PowerPoint presentation from the agenda page. You will see it right there. And real quick, we have a disclaimer. This event is not affiliated or endorsed by any agency and is provided to you, the audience, for informational purposes only. And your participation in this briefing is voluntary, and any engagement by government personnel like Doug is not an indication or endorsement of or commitment to purchase from any vendor. Did we get through that, Doug? Did that work?
Did a great job. Thank you, Dave.
All right, you bet. All right, so the briefing controls. You can open it up on that panel on the right-hand side, at least in most instances, and you can raise your hand, or you can ask questions by submitting those things. And then hitting the send button. The little hand button will raise so that we can unmute you. And oh, by the way, if you called in on the phone and you'd like to be unmuted, you have to type in your PIN so that we can unmute you and see that you're there. All right, and you can also email us throughout the whole thing at govsupport@govbrief.us or govsupport@patriotled, and we will make sure.com, and we will make sure we get your information to you. One last thing, if you like the way that we're dressed today and the way that Doug looks today, you can make us bigger by dragging that little doodad, could be at the top or to the left, and you can make us bigger, or you can make him disappear altogether if you don't want to see him. And today, we're going to be reviewing initiatives and regulations. We'll talk about FEMP, the Federal Energy Management Program, and that's why Doug is here. We'll talk about ESPC contracts, also why Doug is here, and we'll talk about quick energy saving wins using LEDs. That's one of the best places to go in order to facilitate some of these ESPC contracts to get you bundled in, right? We'll talk about bundling, right, Doug?
Yes.
Yeah. And questions and answers, we'll get your questions and we'll do our best to answer them for you and talk about protecting your agency and procurement options. One other thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be asking a few polls. So why are you here today? And I think you can answer more than one. And you can say you want to learn more about ESPC contracts, or if you have a project that you're looking to use an ESPC contract, or you're looking at LED technology. So let us know why you're here and why you decide, or your boss made you come. It could have been that too. So we'll wait for you guys to fill that out. And it may have been because your boss made you come. And so, Doug, where are you out of while we're waiting on folks to finish up?
I actually live in Raleigh, North Carolina, Dave.
Awesome.
And have lived here for a very long time with my family. So,
awesome.
As you can tell by my Southern accent, I'm, born and raised in the South, as they say.
Exactly. I almost. By the way, let's just share these results. 100% of folks here wanted to learn more about ESPC contracts. And some of them actually want to learn about LEDs too. So that's good news. And with it, do we get all that back there, Adam? I think we're good. I think we can see everything, right? So yes, you mentioned you're down. So I had you pegged for Brooklyn or Jersey or something like that. But Doug is joining us as he mentioned. You're with the FEMP program, and so tell us what a technical manager is, and what energy efficiency research and analysis really is.
Well, first of all, I'd like to just mention that I work, as my other two colleagues work, for Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and FEMP contracts with the Oak Ridge to support their alternative financing programs. In terms of what we do, our real title is a federal project executive, and we're dedicated to helping agencies with alternative financing projects to help them get started, provide project facilitators, and any type of support as from the national laboratories. We have a contracting support at our Golden Field office. So we have an array of tools and support for federal agencies to help these types of projects succeed. So once again, we are the federal project executive, and as you mentioned earlier, and we'll show in a map later on, my territory is basically from Texas, over in the east. I also cover the islands and Europe as well. So that's it.
There you go. Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you joining us, and I know we're going to be talking about Scott, your counterpart, a little bit later this afternoon, as we do one for the West Coast for his folks. So, and then also with us, we have Adam Harmon. He's with Axis LED Group. They manufacture the Patriot LED tubes or LED lighting, not just tubes, right, Adam? Tell us about you.
Yeah, hello guys. My name is Adam Harmon. I am with Axis LED Group, and we are the manufacturers of and owners of the Patriot LED products. We manufacture any fixture, but for any interior, exterior. The only thing that we do not do is screw-in lamps. We're looking into it, but we're here to help with this. You guys get more familiar with these ESPC programs, and hopefully one day use our products when you guys do get one of these large projects.
And one of the reasons why you're here, Adam, is because the Patriot LED line is BAA and TAA compliant, because it's BAA compliant and ultra low UL flickerless verified. So those are the two that you're getting some attention out in the marketplace because of that. And we'll talk about some of the initiatives there about BAA compliance and the importance for the latest initiatives that we see coming down. Some of the initiatives and mandates that we see go all the way back to 1992 with the Energy Policy Act of 1992, and a lot of these just are successions as we get to the efficiency standards. Especially most folks that are in the federal space know about Executive Order 13693, which is planning for federal sustainability in the next decade, which is still in place, by the way. And then we have additional mandates and executive orders coming with the new administration for improving the efficiency and effectiveness and accountability of federal agencies. And this can fit squarely in that and provide you with compliance to those initiatives as well. The other thing that I mentioned is the Buy American Act, and that actually goes back to 1933. And it talks about manufacturing and assembling in the United States. And we also have Employ American, which is embedded in that as well. And we've heard a lot of that over the past year about Employ American and Buy American. And if you take a look at what the new administration is doing with the efficiency mandates, you have more to come, but we're also looking at aggressive use of ROI, or return of investment, which leads us right into the ESPC contracts, because you can actually use your savings to apply to the purchase of equipment, whether it's LED lights. And LED lights are used a lot of times for that, to get immediate savings that can be applied, and ESPC contracts can be bundled, right? That's the word of the day, right, Doug?
That is the most significant advantage that ESPCs and other alternative financing tools have, is this bundling, to use those energy conservation measures that have a lot of savings with energy conservation measures that are long payback, and those together allow them to fit inside the 25-year term of our energy savings performance contract. We'll talk more about that later.
Yes, we will. And it's good stuff all the way around. Just a quick piece about the Buy American Act. It's talking about products that are produced in the United States. We saw this as soon as the administration took over last January with the construction of the pipelines, which gave a 25% protection over TAA. So there's also the executive order of April 18th, of 2017, which they were talking about the judicious use of waivers to ensure maximum utilization of products and goods produced in the United States. So all of those things apply when you're looking at your products, and certainly when we talk about LED tubes, because that's one of the places that you will find that. So now the question that we have before we jump into you, Doug, is have you ever used an ESPC contract before to be able to facilitate the purchasing of products or large products or small products within your agency? And that is what we're going to be asking right now. So far, it's 100% no, that they haven't used it yet. Go ahead. It's okay. You guys can vote. It's all right. You can do it. So we'll give you another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's it. So look at that, guys. 100% they haven't used it yet. I like it. I'm glad that you all are here, and I'm glad that, Doug, that you're here to talk about what FEMP's purpose is, because that is exactly what you're here to do, is to help folks use the ESPC contract mechanism. Isn't that true?
That's true. Dave, thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to talk about the kind of programs that FEMP supports. But let's just talk about FEMP for just a minute. You've mentioned it. The Federal Energy Management Program is part of the United States Department of Energy. And our real role is to assist agencies, the personnel in those agencies, to meet their federal goals and initiatives, and especially those related to energy-related goals and renewable energy, sustainable energy as well. So we and my colleagues are really the first line of contact for these types of projects. We help agencies get started with some technical assistance, and then work them through the process. And we have, as I mentioned earlier, contractual support, laboratory support, a variety of tools and support to be sure that these projects are successful and good deals for the federal government.
Excellent. And you mentioned this map earlier, which is your region is Texas. That's a pretty big territory you got there, Doug.
Well, it is. We've been very, very successful, and we talked earlier a little bit about, has the federal government been using these types of tools? They really have been used by a lot of federal agencies, but like we see, especially in Department of Defense and other federal agencies, there's a lot of turnover, and so people that have had experience and moved to other jobs. So it's constantly an effort for us to re-educate and train federal employees on the opportunities for alternative financing. And as we mentioned, Tom Hattery's in the Northeast, I'm in the Southeast, and Scott Wolf, who's going to be with you this afternoon, covers the Western region. And in essence, we cover the world, no matter where it is, as long as it's a federal agency. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on when we compare and talk about the other opportunities.
So let's talk about these alternative financing options that you mentioned for being able to get what the agencies need to effectively improve their buildings, right? That's what it's about.
Yes, it is to certainly help save energy, as well as dollars, but it's to help them meet their energy and water and renewable energy goals. So we have 4 options right here. We're going to talk about those and show you a little chart that compares them in a number of different ways. But we have the Energy Savings Performance Contract, which we've talked about mostly today, but we have the Utility Energy Service Contracts, which involve utilities. And we have a new tool. It's called Energy Savings Performance Contract Enable, for started out as smaller projects. And finally, we have a brand new energy sales agreement. ESPC energy sales agreement is basically a power purchase agreement that can be done under an energy savings performance contract. So there's a wide variety of options for agencies to select from, whatever suits them best in terms of who they'd like to work with, the size of the project, etc.
Awesome. And what is the ESPC? A lot of folks, it's new to them, and this is great. It's a great tool that can be used. So tell us what it means and what they can do with it.
Great. We toss this around all the time: ESCO, ESPC, et cetera, all these terminologies. But an energy savings performance contract allows an energy service company, better known as an ESCO, to identify and implement energy efficiency upgrades. And the key word there, it has to be energy related. So let's just say carpet probably wouldn't qualify. And the ESCO is going to pay for these, and the agency is going to reimburse the ESCO over the term of the contract with the savings from these types of contracts. So it is a financing mechanism in general, I would say. It does not require any upfront funds on the part of the agency unless they have some appropriations they'd like to use for it. We talked about the energy service company. This is a company that's going to go out and identify the energy conservation measures, provide the development and the installation of it, and it's going to give you the guarantees. That's a significant aspect of energy savings performance contracts, is that we have a guarantee that those savings will be there and is sufficient to cover the cost of the contract over term. And so that's the ESCO.
So real quick, one of the things that you're saying is that there's no upfront cost. If they have appropriated funds, use them, right?
You can use appropriated funds in conjunction with a financed project, yes.
And so, but being able to use the savings to effectively, and some of these projects are really big, right? We're not just talking about a couple $1,000 or even $100,000. Some of these are millions, right?
Our average project is probably 17 to 20 million, and we've had projects as large as 250 million.
Yep. And we're going to talk about what those things are in just a minute as well, what you can use them for.
That is correct. Let's mention the agency, the federal agency, and it has to be a federally owned building. We'll talk about that later on for an ESPC project. Is the agency is going to, select the company they want to work with, and they're going to pay that company back over term. And you'll see that the term is, in this case, a maximum of 25 years for an energy savings performance contract.
Awesome. And so one of the things I like about this is you're here to help walk the folks through any of these types of contracts, right? That's your job.
That is correct. And we should be the first point of contact. And depending on the process that you choose, we will get you some technical assistance. If it's with an energy savings performance contract, we're going to engage a project facilitator, a technical person that's going to work with the agency and walk them through the process, evaluate their proposals, make recommendations to them, analyze the economics of it. So let's talk about, some of the other things in terms of the UESC's support and other things. We really want to look at mission critical infrastructure these days, especially as it deals with DOD. We're talking about resiliency.
Big term.
How quickly can we recover from any type of disaster, whether it could be a hurricane or it's some other type of disaster. So resiliency is a big thing. We're really talking about repair and maintenance types of issues, especially the infrastructure improvements that you might need and cannot afford. You're going to, in some cases, improve the comfort of the people that are in those particular facilities. Hopefully, you're going to reduce your utility bills. We will show you a little chart over there how the utility bills, are very, very important for these types of contracts, because this is where the funds actually come from.
And let's talk about that with leveraging those funds, leveraging the agency funds as they exist. So even if you're operating under a continuing resolution, that seems to be the term of the day, with the exception now where we actually have a budget, right? But this is applicable throughout all agencies, and they have access to this, don't they?
Yes. And the key word here is that ESPCs and UESCs are budget neutral. If you're looking at the far left bar chart there, that is your energy and energy related operations and maintenance budget. And then when you actually perform a project, you will see in the dark blue, that's still your budget there. And the lighter color above that are the dollars that are going to repay the cost of the ESPC or UESC. And there's a little bit of excess savings at the top because they don't generally guarantee 100% of those projects. And on the far right is what happens after the project has been built out and the loan completely repaid. It might be 18 years, it might be 20 years, actually can go out to 25 years. And then those savings, revert back to the agency that's involved with that particular project. So this is how they work. There's no new money that is generally used for these types of projects. Now, you can use some federal appropriations in conjunction with it, but in general, the way they work is the dollars come from existing utility and O&M budgets.
Perfect. So there's 4 different flavors of this. You have ESPC, you have ESPC Enable, you have UESPs, and you have the Army Corps of Engineers has theirs as well, right? So there's kind of 4 different ways to go. So
yes. Tell
us how it works.
Well, here's some commonalities among all 4 of these. You're involving the private sector. That's number 1. Mm-hmm. And number 2, the agency is going to pay for the project over term out of the savings as a result of the project. Okay. And FEMP, that's the group that we work for, can provide the project facilitation and other support for any of these projects that we're talking about today. And after the project is completed, the savings revert back to the agency. So you're no longer taking dollars out of your utility and O&M budgets and paying off the cost of the project. So those savings revert back to the agency. Perfect.
And we mentioned this earlier, is some of the technology categories. Is there really anything? You mentioned carpet, probably not, right? but just about everything else in a building, especially anything that's dealing with heating, cooling, lighting, water, all those chillers, that can be very expensive, which is why that bundling word comes in again, doesn't it?
Yes, it really is the key to the success of these types of projects. But just addressing the technology issue, as long as it's energy related, and let's take roofs, for example. If you're putting a photovoltaics array on top of a roof and it needs repairing or replacing, then you could include the cost of the roof in the project. But generally, as long as it's energy related, we can accommodate that. We specifically talk about water as well. Water is a very big issue these days. A lot of savings from it. Renewable energies, photovoltaics and others, wind turbines. And, also today we're talking about resiliency, the microgrid types of things, diesel generators, et cetera. to allow agencies to have that type of resource if something happens to their grid.
Nice. Very good. And you mentioned that this is where you do a comparison between all four of those contract vehicles. Tell us about these. There's two different slides, so we may even bounce back and forth because it's kind of an extension of each one of these. So tell us about each one and which one would be best for the agency depending on how they want to approach their project.
Well, I think you see across the top in the dark blue all four of these. And in this particular one, we're just going to talk about the type of contract and who you would work with and the authority for it. And first of all, we have the ESPCs. It's a DOE IDIQ contract that an agency would be using. Under the ESPC enabled, that contract is with GSA, Schedule 84, CN 246 53. And then you have the ESPC ESAs. These are new. It's like a power purchase agreement, and you can do that as a standalone contract, or you could actually include that as an ECM under our IDIQ ESPC contract. And the UESCs, you're going to be working under the GSA schedule. It's a basic ordering agreement. That means you're going to be working with your local utility, your local serving utility who needs to have an agreement with GSA. Who you in the private sector, you're going to work with ESCOs. We identified those early on. And we have a list of those under the ESPCs. There's 21 of those. And under the ESCOs for Enable, they are on the GSA schedule. And with the ESA contract, we have a qualified list. The Department of Energy has a qualified list, and you can use anyone off of that list, which is a very, very large list. And certainly with the utility UESCs, you'll be working with the local serving utility. And here's the last part here is very important. If you would go back,
okay, sir.
We really want to be sure that we emphasize that if you're doing an ESPC, it needs to be a federally owned facility. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's sometimes we have to be very careful when we're dealing, in Europe and other places, to be sure it's federally owned. Same thing is true for Enable. And in a case of ESA, it's either federally owned or federally owned land. And the UESC is where it's different. If you're actually leasing a building, the UESC would be your only option there. If it's not a federal facility, not owned by the federal government, but you're leasing it, you can do a UESC for that facility. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I do have one more question. Oh, go. You want to go? Did you have something, Adam?
I did not know that. That's very good to know.
Yeah. How do you know if the utility provides this? How will you know?
Are you asking,
Yeah.
Well, first of all, there's a website that you could go to and see if you're a local serving utility. It has to be a utility that's serving your facility, not just one that's in the area, but it has to be a serving utility. You can ask them and they will tell you that if they're a participant, in the UESC program and have an area-wide contract. And there's also a website. I don't remember the exact number today. Historically, it's been around 55 utilities participate in this nationwide. I think it's up a little, and I do not have that exact number.
And we'll find that website and we'll get that out to everybody as well. So tell us about these financing options and the project sizes. How they plot.
Well, there's a lot of similarity in many ways, but the DOE ESPCs, are from any size, small size, up to any 250 million or whatever size you want it to be, as long as it's economical. We started out with the Enable projects with a smaller number of ECMs, and we had a specific tool, investment grade audit, that would calculate those savings for it. And it was our hope that these projects, could be accomplished in a very short period of time. And in fact, we've had several projects meet our projected timeline of 6 months.
Nice.
So they can be completed or the task order can be achieved in a much shorter period of time. Let's see, the ESAs, this is really about power purchase agreement. It's renewable generation. And the time for that is, it's really determined, by who you're working with. And the UESCs, the ECMs are unlimited. You can do any type of ECM with a UESC that you can do with an ESPC, and the same thing with Enable. So basically, the only one that's a little bit different is if you were to do a standalone site-specific ESPC ESA for just power generation. But you can include other ECMs as well. Let's talk about the M&V and the O&M, because this is where it's a little bit different. In the ESPC, it is mandated that the ESCO will guarantee the savings. It's required.
And M&V stands for?
Measurement and verification.
Gotcha.
So it is their basic protocols in place for the various types of energy conservation measures, and that you will identify how you're going to verify that the savings are there on an annual basis. The ESCO has to provide the agency with an annual M&V report, and we require that the agency go out and witness the types of monitoring and measurements that the ESCOs take for these types of projects. This is very significant. There's a guarantee from the ESCO for both the ESPC Enable and the regular ESPC that the savings are there. And the same thing is true for the ESAs. In that case, we're doing an option B, and we recommend, not required, recommend for the ESAs that you have an M&V protocol. For the UESCs, it's negotiable. It's not mandatory, but generally we have a document called a energy assurance plan that will explain and identify how they're going to go in and to verify that annually for the agency. In the O&M, in this particular case with the ESPCs, the ESCO is responsible for the O&M throughout the life of the contract. It can be negotiable though. And if we're looking at Enable, the government or the ESCO can provide the O&M. And when we're looking at the ESAs, it's the ESCO must perform that as well. And under the UESCs, it's negotiable.
And the operations and maintenance, this is one of the things in talking with a lot of folks in the industry recently, this is one of the areas of concern and ability to fund the whole ball of wax, if you will, right? Where you can actually include these in the contract. So the operations and maintenance are all included. Is that what you're finding?
Well, when we talk about savings, I mean, there's different types of savings, but if we were to take lighting, for instance, and I know this is, near and dear to your heart, if you were installing LEDs, they have a longer life and you don't have to go back and replace those. So there's savings from the maintenance aspect of it. So it is another opportunity for savings, which could reduce the term of the contract or allow you to add some additional scope. But remember now, this bundling, we're taking, short payback energy conservation measures like lighting and other things, and bundling that with longer term renewable energies, although the cost for renewable energy and the solar and even batteries have come down significantly. But if you bundle those together, you get a shorter project, or a project that will, as we refer to it, is life cycle cost effective within the full term of 25 years.
Right.
And that in 25 years includes construction. So the O&M could be very effective and very important. It just depends on the agency,
Yep.
whether they will allow the operation and maintenance savings to be used for the economics of the project.
And that, like you said, that depends on the agency, and that's exactly what we've heard as well. So great, great overview. I appreciate that, Doug. That is awesome. So if you haven't used an ESPC contract, tell us, what is the biggest issue that you have? And I think you can choose as many as you like on this as well, but it's a cost or budget, understanding the ESPC contracting process, engineering issues, maybe being able to figure out what actually is included, not enough staff to execute. We can help with that, right, Doug? You can.
Yes.
And not sure if your opportunity is large enough. So all those, let us know what you think, and we will absolutely get you the information that you need appropriately for that. We'll give you. This is one of the things that, as far as project size, is there any limit to the project size, or either bottom or top? Is there any limit? So we'll get into those as well.
Dave, there isn't actually a limit on the size of the project for any of those in terms of how small it might be or how large it might be. I think initially we were thinking that our ESPC enabled projects would be a little smaller, but we've now added additional ECMs. We have no limit on the size of ESPC enabled projects or the types of ECMs that can be used. We initially started out with 4. We've added a couple of boiler and chillers, and now we've decided that you can use any type of ECM or as many ECMs as you'd like for an ESPC enabled project. Which
is great, because it helps to streamline the process very much. And thank you very much, Doug. That was great. And now from the industry side, we have Adam Harmon to talk about the quick saving wins and using how it applies, how lighting applies to ESPC contracts. So tell us a little bit about what you're finding out there, Adam, and using using lighting for ESPC contracts.
Well, thank you, Dave. Yes, a lot of people know the LED lighting has been commercialized really for about 7 or 8 years, and the prices keep going down. And what we have found is that with switching out your lighting, it's probably one of the easier low-hanging fruits that you can do with one of your buildings, because of obviously everybody knows the energy savings from LEDs is roughly between anywhere from 50% all the way up to 80% on your outdoor lighting. Another thing also that Doug brought up is that they do last a lot longer, so your operations and your maintenance savings is going to be incredible also. And if you live in the southern regions, since they don't produce very much heat, they don't get above 80 to 90 degrees, they can actually save you a little bit on your AC, which can also, there's an algorithm and a calculation that you can do that. With our products that we have, we found out that LED tubes for your short-term easiest ROI, you can do a strictly plug and play where you pull your existing fluorescent out, plug in our product, and it works with your existing ballast. Or we found with fixtures, which a lot of the government folks, especially the P100 for the GSA, wasn't allowing tubes doing entire fixtures, that your ROI is a little bit longer, but the energy savings is always there. And obviously, with the better lighting that LEDs have, we were one of the only companies in the entire world that has called flickerless is what we call it, but it's extremely low flicker. It's about 0.001% flicker that the DOD is apparently requiring on all of their projects. And what this means is that for your office space, it has less headaches, less, it's better for your eyes. A lot of healthcare, a lot of schools are going this way also, because even though you can't see a normal light right now or an LED, it still flickers at like 120 times per second, which naked eye cannot see this, but what we have is something where we dialed that down. You get the exact same light without all the extra flicker on there, and it's a better work environment for you guys.
Yeah, and that's something that we're finding out in the marketplace as well. And there's been some projects where we've walked in, and I was actually talking with some folks in DC where they were covering the lights with blankets to try to lessen that. And that wasn't in a healthcare environment. That was actually a regular office building. So there is some significant impact there as well. One of the biggest things with the reduced ROI is the ability to take those funds and do what with it, Doug?
To pay for the cost of these projects over term, which is, we talked about 25 years.
Yep.
So that's a good thing to do.
Yep. And bundling is the word of the day, is being able to, because you can either do it, you can go small, but if you go small, this is one of the things that if you use it like for a pilot, we were talking about this in other instances where if you use it as a pilot, you get the savings, boom, right away. But then the problem is you can't use those savings to finance the boilers and the chillers and the big investment items. Isn't that right?
Yes, we generally would recommend to you that you do as large a project as you think you can, that you can accommodate, or the facilities as well. I know a lot of military bases are being all inclusive in their ESPC projects today, but as we say, going fence to fence. Everything in that facility is included. Every building is included in their ESPC project. Now, that doesn't mean it actually ends up that way, but they're going to look at all the facilities and see what needs to be done and look at the economics as well. And so that's leveraging the short-term payback energy conservation measures with the longer-term, and renewables have come down a lot, so I don't want to pick on them, but and it also allows you to do some of the resiliency things that we're looking at. Maybe even look at data centers. This is a real opportunity, we think, out there today. And so we're working very hard to help agencies understand what the potential is for both the data centers and resiliency. When we talk about resiliency, we're talking about, microgrids and PV and batteries, those types of things. So there's some real opportunities out there. And the pilots are not bad, but as you point out, those savings that you use for that pilot, you can't turn around and use those again. So if you take the low-hanging fruit, as we refer to it, and use it on a smaller project, you can't use it to leverage a larger project with more long-term ECMs later on. In most cases, unless you had identified all of those ECMs up front, and possibly you could do a modification, but that's generally not the way it works.
Yep.
So we like to be as inclusive as possible in the initial expectation of the scope.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we're running out of time, so I'm going to get through these things. Some of the benefits, as we mentioned earlier, I'll cap on to what you said, Adam, is immediately you're reducing your energy usage with the bulbs, just replacing those straight out. And then you have warranties that far exceed anything that the fluorescents do, right? Isn't that true?
Yes, we have a standard 5-year warranty. We also go up to 10-year warranty, which a lot of the government is requiring. So we can accommodate that very easily. And as you can see with the other points here, is that the life of it, like we said a little bit ago, is so much longer, and obviously the lower maintenance cost is just, it's unbelievable.
Yep, it is fantastic. So and why push for BAA LEDs? Because guess what? We have initiatives right now. We have federal mandates that work throughout these, and guess. We're anticipating more BAA push as they start to really look at the TAA compliance issues, and we see that happening here in DC. And the best part is, especially when it comes to what's happening with Patriot LED. You have competitive pricing that helps to meet the initiatives anyway. All right, so we're gonna get through these. This is gonna be a quickie. All right, so I expect a facilities upgrade requirement immediately, Q3 2018, which depending on how you look at it, may have started last weekend if you're federal. So let us know what you have out there, and we'll make sure that we get you what you need. And we're gonna keep this open for another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and boom. So we do see things that are happening in immediate, really close to immediately, and then 2019, and some folks aren't sure, which is great. That's fine too. All right, so we'll get that closed, and we'll get to the questions and answers. And we have a couple here. Will there be a briefing for UESC contracts? We're working on that. I have talked to a couple of different people that are interested in that. So we will let you know about that. Will the presentation be made available? Yes, it will be made available. Let's see what else we have as far as the questions here. If you have any questions, can the rebate from utility go against the ROI on ESPC?
Yes, it can.
Awesome.
Some agencies choose not to use it, but they use it for other things. But yes, those utility rebates, and in fact, we strongly encourage the ESCOs to seek out the rebates, because they could reduce the cost of the project or allow them to add additional scope. So the answer is yes.
Excellent. And can the contracts be used for microgrids? You mentioned that a couple of different times.
Yes, they can.
Anything that's energy oriented, right?
That is correct.
Super. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to email those. You can send them to support@govbrief.us or govsupport@patriotled.com. Either one of those will get answered. We'll get those answers back to you. And this is one of my favorites, which is staying out of hot water. And that is, get your technical and procurement people involved together from the beginning. Engage somebody like our friend Doug here, because he is here to help you get to where you want to go and help draft that procurement plan and to get it through your agency and leverage your savings and bundling with the big, right? Right, Doug?
That's great. These are great points you have here, Dave. And certainly, if we can't answer the question, we will find someone that can and provide you with the type of support you may need, regardless of the type of process that you choose. And, with every site and every agency, a process works better from that perspective. So it's really up to the agency, the type of process. And we're just happy to help with any of those processes and support them in the very best possible way. So give the federal project executives a call. And if we don't have the answer, we'll be sure you get it.
Absolutely. And so as far as BAA and LEDs go, make sure you're requiring the BAA compliance as well as low flicker or flickerless verification, and make sure they send you the certification for it because they may just claim it and not have it. I've never heard that happen before. Have you, Adam?
No, never.
Never. And verify those warranties and lead time, verify the past performance, and use the ESPC and UESC contracts, because you have fast access to vendors. And I know Doug is not going to argue with that. And guess where you can find those? You can find those on GSA Schedule 84, SIN 246-53, as well as look at all the folks that are available in the DOE IDIQ. You have the ESPC ESAs for the large renewable stuff. You have UESCs for the utility driven, and we're going to get you the website for that. That was one of the questions that came up earlier. And you also have access to ESPC contracts through Army Corps of Engineers, because they have their own flavor of things in DOE, don't they, Doug?
Yes, they had their own ESPC IDIQ, which is very similar to ours.
Very similar. It is
yes,
very similar.
We work with them very closely. A lot of similarity. In fact, we use some of their staff for project facilitation for for our IDIQ.
Yep. And you all work together. Everybody wants the same thing. It's a beautiful thing. So as far as if you would like information on Access LED and the Patriot tubes that we've been talking about, Patriot LED lighting, you can gain access to those either through GSA. You can talk to your ESPC provider, whoever that is. It could be UESC or ESPC because they can require that. And if you need any of the check boxes for Hub Zone 8A, woman-owned, service disabled, you can do that. And tell us a little bit about Unicore and the interagency agreement that you have there.
Yes, we contract with Unicore, which is the division of the Federal Prison Industries, to assemble our lighting for us. And what that can do for you guys is skip a lot of red tape and not have to go through a bidding process and go with an interagency agreement where we actually give the product to Unicore. You buy directly from Unicore since it is another agency in the government, and it's extremely simple. You don't have to worry about the procurement, and especially I believe it is very easy on the paperwork, is what I'm hearing. Awesome. Of all the lots of the other ones.
Yeah, that's what I love. So we're going to skip this because we already got enough polls out there and we're running behind. So real quick, you will get a follow-up recap email with a presentation link. Q&A, we'll collect all those and make sure we get that to you as well. And the supporting documents linked to DOE and ESPC, as well as the Access LED group capabilities, including the Patriot LED and procurement options there. And with that, we're going to say thank you very much. And we will have Scott Wolf coming up at 1 o'clock for those of you who want another dose of interagency ESPC contract saving. So you can join us there. But Doug, thanks so much for joining us. It's been great. And we're going to give a shout out to you. And you can reach out to Doug right there, of being able to reach out there. And Adam's information is there as well. Any parting comments you want to throw out there, Doug?
Dave, thank you so much for having us. And it's great just to be able to outline these options that all federal agencies have to meet their federal energy and water and renewable energy goals. So give us a call. We'd be glad to help you, whatever type of process you choose.
And Adam, how about you? Any parting comments?
No, guys, I appreciate your time this morning, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you soon. And get some of these some of these FEMP projects done for you guys.
Perfect. Again, thank you very much. I'm Dave Lowe. I'm your GovBrief host. So we are glad that you joined us, and we will see you next time. And thanks for joining us on this interagency briefing for energy performance saving contracts. Thanks much.